I don't think that she should do what she wants without any scrutiny or clearly without looking at the evidence or going for it first. There's nothing sort of cavalier about this. But the issue is that, you know, when it comes to making decisions like this around foreign policy, she's going to look at a whole matrix of intelligence that is never going to be presented to the House of Commons. And then MPs will make that debate based on half the picture, so you're not actually going to get a true outcome. So I don't agree with no scrutiny whatsoever. That would be foolish. But I do agree that she should have the freedom to act and should not be constrained by this convention that we've now got of coming to Parliament.
Davey, that convention being a relatively new development, that Parliament has had a vote in some recent conflicts. Surely, as Johnny Mercer was saying, that the Prime Minister, she'll have the data in front of her, she will know what to do. Why shouldn't she take that decision?
Well, I think there's no military reason for an attack without Parliament being debating this. There's no surprise, let's face it, President Trump has already tweeted the attack's going to take place. There's no need to defend the UK from an immediate attack. Therefore, we can be considered about this. And given the issues around Russia, for example, I think we should be considered. I think Parliament should see the evidence. Last time we had a full debate about an attack on Syria, I voted for an attack back in 2013. I was then a member of the National Security Council. I'd seen the evidence, I'd seen the intelligence, but I thought a debate was proper. The debate was a good debate. It went the wrong way from my point of view, but I think that doesn't mean we shouldn't now debate it. I think it's absolutely essential that Parliament does actually have a voice in this and is presented with the evidence by the Prime Minister.
Johnny Mercer, hasn't Iraq changed things, not just in terms of Parliament getting a vote, but scepticism among some people about intelligence, about information? Isn't that why it needs more scrutiny this time, more parliamentary scrutiny?
John, the prism of Iraq has, I'm afraid, changed everything in this debate, and rightly so, because some of the mistakes we made going into that clearly were catastrophic. But I just don't believe that if you're looking at the intelligence, you are going to get a number of different feeds, as Ed knows, some of which will never be made public because of the way we collect them, because you will burn assets, because you will make this country less safe. The Prime Minister sees that entire suite of intelligence feeds. She makes that decision. Now, Parliament, of course, should have a voice in that and should have a say in that. But the idea that it's binding based on not seeing a full picture of what's going on, I don't think is right. But Ed is right that the Prime Minister needs to come out and advocate as to what she wants to do, whether she's going to do something or whether she's not. And and I don't have a problem with that. And scrutiny and clearly and all these things are a good thing. But when it comes to inhibiting her freedom of movement to make decisions on things like this, I don't think she should be constrained by coming back to Parliament.
Jeremy Corbyn has made it very clear that he is extremely anxious about military action. He says it risks escalating an already devastating crisis. Ed Davey, a lot of people will support that view, given recent experience that this is just not the time or the place for the UK to be getting involved in military action.
I think that's even more reason for a parliamentary debate. If we're going to take the country with us and unite the country, unite Parliament, you do that through a parliamentary approach. You mentioned Iraq. I voted against the war in Iraq because the evidence was not strong. I think the parliamentary debate should pull that evidence apart. And as a Liberal Democrat, I voted against that. I think in this case, the evidence is much clearer. We've seen it on our TV screens. We've seen it before. The evidence that Assad has attacked his own people with his chemical weapons is overwhelming, it seems to me. I'd like that absolutely confirmed. I'd like to debate the issue of how we avoid a conflagration and seeing conflict with Russia, which would be an appalling outcome. We have to think those through, and that is even more reason for a considered approach where MPs of all parties are involved. And let's remember, the Prime Minister does not have a Conservative majority in the House of Commons. I think as a minority government, as a minority Prime Minister, it's absolutely incumbent on her to put the case to Parliament and allow MPs to come together and have that vote.
Johnny Mercer, the other thing that Jeremy Corbyn has been saying is that Theresa May looks very weak in all this, that she's not decided yet whether she's going to go to Parliament, and that she looks like she's just waiting for a call from Donald Trump, waiting for the White House to tell her what to do.
Look, Jeremy Corbyn is going to come on whichever side of the debate that is against the government, isn't he? I mean, I don't know what it would take for him to think that military force is required in some instance. I think he's still under the impression that those of us who used to conduct these operations do it because it's fun or there's something else to do. It's clearly around protecting life, and and people like me who think that actually we should stand up and say chemical weapons use is not acceptable in 2018 suddenly become isolated voices because of this swathe of opinion that says don't trust the evidence, we should never become involved, and so on. And I just don't think that is Britain in 2018. If you go out, speak to people on the doors in Plymouth or wherever it may be, people clearly understand this is a very difficult conflict. You're not going to get a clean result from whatever we do from this, but we have to stand up and say chemical weapons use against children from an individual like Assad is not acceptable in 2018, and some sort of action must be coming from that, and I was pleased to see the Cabinet agreed that yesterday.